in a very old war.
Yes.
Are these drug traffickers going to be extradited to the States?
Yesterday, the Attorney's Office of Colombia asked to start the process of extradition that should go through the Supreme Court. So we hope that very soon we could have the agreement of the Supreme Court to extradite the people that were involved in this. I think it's the largest criminal organization that we have caught in the last years. They were exporting 20 to 30 tons of cocaine to the United States. The figures that we have is that more or less between 250 to 300 tons of cocaine arrives from Colombia to the United States. So we are talking that we hit 70% of the export of cocaine to the United States yesterday.
You can guarantee as president that these people will go to the United States and face justice. You don't have a problem with that?
No, as I was telling you, the only thing is that we need to work very hard and very quickly in all the extradition process that should go to the Supreme Court.
Is this now an all-out, no-holds-barred assault on the drug lords, the paramilitaries, the guerrillas? I mean, is this where you're going?
But you know that we are committed to fight first narco-trafficking, because narco-trafficking is the principal source that it's financing the violence in Colombia. Our problems come from narco-trafficking. If you see, the guerrilla is financed by the narcos, the vigilantes, the autodefensas, are financed by the vigilantes, or by drug lords or narco-trafficking, the common delinquency, because people want easy money. So that's why, even as I am proposing, 2 weeks ago I went to the United States, and in the UN, in New York, in the General Assembly of the United Nations, I proposed what I call the Colombian plan. Then I went to the United States, to the Congress, to the government, selling our Colombian plan, and next week I am going to Europe to sell our Colombian plan, that basically is concentrating in, first of all, trying to hit and to win over drug lords and narco-trafficking, and also we have to invest in social investment, in infrastructure, in getting back the economy on the right track. So that's why we are committed, and I think that for the first time, the whole government or the whole society is committed in fighting drugs. The President, the Cabinet, the Attorney's Office, the Procuraduría, civil society, the police, the army, we are all committed in eradicating drugs from our country.
How important American aid, men, material? I mean, you're looking for
But it's not only from America, and we're not asking for aid, David, because this is. I've said that this is a strategic alliance that we need to conform to fight drugs. Because, okay, we know that we have the problem because we produce drugs. The US have the problem because it's consuming drugs. Now you could see in the UK, in Europe, the problem of consumption. So this is a fight that we should unite all of us, getting resources to eradicate drugs from our soil. Okay, we produce, you consume. So that's why we need to get more and more closer, each of us, to fight this common crime or this international crime that is drugs.
American involvement?
Oh yes, and Europe. For example, you know what happened? I've said that you cannot produce cocaine without the coca leaf. But you cannot produce cocaine if you don't have ether or acetone or the chemicals. And basically, most of those chemicals come from Europe. So that's why we need to get all these working together. You know, for example...
Sir, I mean, are you entirely comfortable about inviting the Americans in here to train your army, about seeking billions of dollars worth of military aid from the United States? Is this the way to go?
But that's why they are not training the whole army. That's why 1 year ago I proposed to create the anti-narcotics battalion. Why? Because in the fight of drugs in Colombia, you have to be aware of that the police is fighting in the eradication and fumigation of the poppy fields and the cocaine fields. But when they are attacking, when they're fumigating, when they're in the process of eradication, many times you have the guerrillas going in and trying to get rid of the police, hitting them, fighting with them, killing our policemen. So that's why I said, why don't we create a special anti-narcotics battalion to be the support of the police in the fight against drugs. And that's why we started this year the training of the first 1,000 men. And we hope that in the next 3 to 4 years, we will have 5,000 soldiers, the best trained soldiers, to be support to the police in the fight against drugs. And in this way, getting really in the heart of the problem that is, part of it is eradication and fumigation, and giving the support to the police in the fight against drugs.
How helpful the British? You've had the SAS here for some
Yes,
time.
they have been very useful with us in intelligence. They're being very supportive also, and I think that we are trying to create a new way of getting the satellite control of our fields to see if really we're or see if these fumigation and eradication processes are going forward. Intelligence.
I mean, the SAS have been working specifically with La Jungla.
They're been working, I think, with the police in the anti-narcotics and with the government. And I think that we need all this information because I think that...
Do you want more of the SAS? Do you want more of this?
I think that we need to work not only SAS, I think that it's government assistance and what it's involved in the government, because I think there are 2 or 3 ways of fighting the drug. The first one is getting into the ground, eradication and fumigation. The second one, okay, is avoiding getting the drug out of Colombia or getting the drug into Europe or into the United States. And the third step, I think, is very important, is going after the assets and going all the financial structure of the drugs. That is the way that our violence is being financed in Colombia. So sometimes I think that we need the help, not only from the intelligence of other countries, but also the financial system, the customs office. So I think that that's why we need every day to get more and more the compromise of all of us, the commitment of all our countries in fighting drugs.
Do you think you can win this war?
Yes,
This war?
with the help of... No, this is not the war of Colombia. And that's why we are getting this the co-responsibility theory that we are showing the world. This is a problem of all of us, and we need to get involved, all of us, if we want to end this fight. Because maybe Colombia, maybe we could fumigate, eradicate big or large hectares of drugs or cocaine or poppy fields. But if we win in Colombia, maybe they're going to go to another country. And if you have the demand, someone is going to supply. So that's why we need to get further in this thing.
You know, you're a man who's been out to the bush and sat down with these fellows.
Yes.
How can there be peace? How does peace have a chance if you're waving the big stick of America and Europe and military aid?
But the stick right now that we are fighting and that we are handling in our hand is against drugs. And that's something that I've been fighting for many years. You know, even I was kidnapped by the drug cartels in the year 1988. But I've been very committed as a journalist, first of all, as a politician, that if we want to protect the future of this country, that is our children, we have to fight drugs. And that's why also we need to create, not only in Colombia, but outside, because sometimes we only stay in this supply-demand problem. Okay, you supply, there's demand. But values, I think there's also that we have to be working in our own societies. That not only looking this problem as a policing or repression problem, education, prevention programs are very important inside our countries. But I think that, as I said to you before, for the first time, the whole Colombian country is united in this fight against drugs. And if we know that if we defeat drug lords in Colombia, we will have peace in our country.
Really?
Yes, definitely.
How can there be peace?
Because it's the only way they are financing right now. The large amount of money that these people have in this moment is drugs. And that's why, and this is something that I've been very clear.
In other words, you've got to wave the big stick to get to the table to talk to you. Is that what you're saying?
It's 2 different things. One is our dialogues with the guerrilla, because some people are saying, okay, what's the involvement of the guerrilla in the drug business? We don't have the evidence that the guerrilla is a cartel. We have the evidence, and you could see that they are in the areas in which drug is being cultivated. We know that they ask taxes for the drug lords, and that's the way of financing their fight. So that's why, if you see the agenda that we signed with the FARC, when we start negotiation with the FARC, the first points in the agenda is eradication of illicit crops. So I think that's one very important point. And in the same way, the ELN has been very active also against drugs. So I think that for the first time, the largest insurgents group in Colombia, the first thing they want to do is to get rid of that seal of narco-guerrilla. And that's why they want to be involved in eradication of illicit crops.
Your military has hardly been innocent down the years. How can you assure the Americans or the British that your army will behave, that there won't be human rights abuses? Because there are.
Oh, yes. We cannot put the hand and say we don't have the light or the sun. I say, we've been very clear that since I started my government, if you see the figures, violation of human rights have been coming down. First of all, because we changed the whole Joint Chief of Staff of the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, everybody. Because the first thing, I want a clear record of human rights in the military is that we're going to work in my or with my government. So I think that was very clear. Secondly, I think it's very important, we are creating a real conscience inside our army. We know that we have problems inside. And that's why we're putting a lot of efforts. The chief commander of the armed forces, inside all the different forces, they are really very committed in human rights. And that's why even in the Colombia plan that I'm going to sell also in Europe, we are putting between $50 to $60 million in education programs for human rights, concentrating not only in the army or in the armed forces, but in the whole society to create really the education in human rights in our country.
It's an excellent interview, sir. You know, we went to Cali on Tuesday and looked at that church and all those people, and, you know, there were still, I don't know, 28 people, 38 people up in the hills there, and, you know, some of them are paying to get out, and the rest of it. I mean, when a plane is hijacked and people are still missing, you know, when people aren't safe in a church, have you lost control of this country? Has the government lost control?
No. You cannot say, for example, that when a terrorist group took an embassy in the UK, the government didn't have control of the UK. No. You know that there are terrorists sometimes. You know that there are difficulties. That unfortunately these groups, as you know, terrorist groups, or insurgent groups, they want also to create this type of publicity for the groups. I think it's. I condemn since the first moment, for example, the kidnapping of the airplane. The same thing with the church. And really, what we hope right now is that, and that's why we're committing in the peace process, because we don't want more violence in this country. We've been in 40 years with violence in Colombia, and that's why my first priority and my first goal is to try to achieve peace in Colombia. And that's why I hope not only is to start very soon negotiations with the FARC, but also negotiations with the ELN, when they will free everybody from the church, from the airplane, from Barranquilla, from the people that were fishing.
Isn't there a danger of collapse here?
Oh no, I think that...
The level of violence, with the level of kidnapping.
I think that's why I think that the mandate that the people of Colombia gave to me in the last election was work, Mr. President, on the peace and try to achieve peace. And that's what we're trying to do.
But do you really believe there can be peace?
Oh yes, otherwise I wasn't.
Gear up for war.
No, because the alternative is peace or war. And sometimes I think that people are trying to they are putting such amount of pressure in Colombia saying, okay, what's happening 1 year? You know more than me what happened in Northern Ireland. Only I think that figuring how the table was going to be set, they took like 8 months or 1 year in Northern Ireland. In 1 year, we sit with the FARC, we start a dialogue with the FARC, and now we have an agenda of 12 points, and we hope to start negotiation in 1 year. So I think that it's a first big step. And the same thing I hope is going to happen with the ELN, that we could start negotiations very soon. Because sometimes people, you've heard that they said, does Colombia have a B plan? We are putting forward the B plan. The A plan is war, the B plan is peace. And that's why we're trying to get all the support of the international community. I went, as you said, into the middle of the jungle to talk to the guerrilla leaders, asking them, okay, are you willing to achieve peace in this country? And they said, why don't we start? And we hope, David, that very soon we could start negotiations with the two largest insurgent groups in Colombia.
The danger if it doesn't happen is what? All out.
It's going back to what happened to Colombia in the last 40 years, a war, an internal conflict inside Colombia. And that's why I think We need to you need patience. I know that it's difficult to construct peace. I think that you have to build peace. It's not something that you could get from one day to another. And sometimes people are wanting peace very soon because we are sick and tired of what's happening, violence in Colombia. And that's why people are going to the streets. People are saying to the insurgent groups, we don't want more kidnappings. We don't want more killings in the country. And I think there's something that it's creating inside Colombia that we didn't have 1 year ago.
Another Vietnam for the United States? Isn't this a
no, definitely
isn't this a slippery slope?
No, definitely. I've been very clear. There will be no intervention of the U.S. in Colombia while I am president of Colombia.
But they're already here.
No, but it's different.
So the British?
No, yes, they are in 300 countries. I don't know if they're in the other day I read, I think, an article, they were the U.S. presence of military aid is in 75 countries, I think. It's right here, they know, people know, the international community. They're helping us and training us in this anti-narcotics battalion, and that's the support that, at this moment, we're having from the United States.
That was an excellent talk. Suerte.
Thank you.